Hello, everybody. We are back. Thank you so much, those of you who joined for our first session today. How powerful was that? So beautiful. Such a big, beautiful way to start this conference. We want to thank everyone for being part of this. My name is Ali Chagi-Star. I'm one of the volunteer conference organizers for the Impossible Summit. And we just want to thank you so much for dreaming into this with us, for being part of this. It's an experiment. We pulled this whole thing together in about 4 or 5 weeks, and 70 amazing thought leaders and movers and shakers came together from all across the country to answer this call and answer this question: how do we make what feels impossible possible? And we have incredible models. So this section, the Impossible Projects, is an opportunity for people who are enacting successful models in the world to share a little bit about what it took to make those happen and how they work. So I'm going to introduce our next two speakers. And just to say, right after these speakers, there'll be another set of 2 speakers. We'll have another little break in an hour and a half, and then we will open it up for our workshops, and you'll learn more about that in a minute. But I'm very excited to welcome Erin Lamer-Chang and Jessica Tovar, both old friends of mine and incredible leaders living in the Bay Area. Erin is a passionate social equity and environmental advocate. He has worked with Julia Butterfly Hill, Circle of Life Foundation, the Green Jobs Program at the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights, the Oakland Food Policy Council, and was the co-founder of Rooted in Resilience. He currently works as a communications specialist for the City of Oakland and serves on Earth Island Institute's program committee. His work with the local Clean Energy Alliance led to the successful launch of East Bay Community Energy. Erin is just a dear friend and a fabulous father to 2 young children and is taking the time out to be with us today to share. Erin's my go-to person when I'm about to go into a meeting of people I don't know really well and I'm not sure what the topic is. I'm like, what do I say? And I'll call him up, and he's that guy who I know can just succinctly and powerfully help me figure out what needs to be said in so many different circumstances. So I'm so thankful for you, Erin. Jessica is also a longtime frontline environmental justice organizer. She conducted and co-published an NIEHS air sampling study in Richmond, California, for use as advocacy against toxic chemicals that are known to cause and or aggravate adverse health effects like asthma, developmental problems, and cancer. She currently serves as the coordinator of the East Bay Clean Power Alliance, which created the East Bay Community Energy, a public agency service provider that is now providing electricity for 1.5 million people in Alameda County. The local Clean Energy Alliance is jumpstarting a local development plan, a Green New Deal for Alameda County. Both Erin and Jessica have been leaders in projects that people said were impossible, but made them possible through the power of their communities, their courage, their creativity, and their conviction. So please, we'll first welcome Erin to speak, and afterwards you'll have a chance to chat in your questions and answers, and have answers provided. And feel free to make positive and comments and questions in the chat. Thank you so much. Welcome, Erin.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Ali. It's an absolute honor to be here, and especially happy to be with so many amazing people who are doing incredible work in this very challenging time. I can't imagine what a lot of people must be thinking about in terms of this moment, right? In terms of what it is going to provide for the future. How are we going to provide for our families and our communities in the future? But with the solutions I think that people are talking about here, we're going to find a way. And I was recently reading an article by just an incredible Indian activist. Her name is Arundhati Roy. Many of you probably know her. And she was talking about this moment, and she said that, historically, pandemics have forced human beings to break with the past, right, and imagine their world anew. And this one is no different. It's a portal and a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, she says, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and our hatred and our avarice and dead ideas, or we can walk lightly through it with just a little bit of luggage and ready to imagine another world and be ready to fight for it. And so I think with that spirit, I just wanted to share some history about a project that many folks here in Oakland, California, were engaged in, starting as recently, or sorry, as far back as 2008. Dating myself here. But it was at that time, like in the wake of the financial crisis, when people were really seeking, answers and possibilities for community development, and concern about the climate was very strong. And so a group of us here in the Bay Area, we decided it was important to take on the existing power structure, and I mean that in both ways. The powerful people and interests that were running the energy system, and also the dirty power that was being fed to us as this inevitable mix of coal and nuclear and gas, right, to power our buildings and our businesses. And so we decided it was important to start a local clean energy alliance to push for a solution. And the solution that we really came to, that was holding promise, was a new model that was being conceived, called community choice energy. And just briefly, it's a really powerful policy tool that allows communities, and in California it allows cities and counties. It's just kind of this really obscure law that people latched onto and realized the potential of, to pool the power of purchasing of our ratepayer dollars in our cities and counties by businesses and residents, to say, hey, we want solar, we want wind, we want geothermal, we want microhydro, instead of all the dirty power that was being fed to us, right? And we were just really concerned that the community was not getting a voice in this process. We weren't moving as fast as we needed to, because the climate, as we know, was becoming extremely unstable, and is. And we saw that the local corporate monopoly in our area, it's Pacific Gas and Electric Company, was failing. It was not transitioning away from fossil fuels fast enough, and it was even failing to meet the state's own renewable energy goals that were specified. So, we decided that's really the way that we're going to make substantive change, is if we start to really shift those dollars and those electrons away from dirty power toward locally sourced power that was clean and helped create opportunities for people in our communities. And what did people say? Well, they pretty much thought we were the laughingstock. Bay Area, many local groups were, even being funded by Pacific Gas and Electric for their work. And so not too many people felt very optimistic about taking them on. They said it was impossible. And every city hall around the Bay was owned by Pacific Gas and Electric. They had their own lobbyists doing favors behind the scenes and making sure that they were the ones to provide power and their mix of power to our communities. And so, but I just really have to give a shout out to some folks. We had some people on our team, Dave Room and Kirsten Schwind, who were from the Post Carbon Institute and from Food First, veteran organizers who realized that it was the time for us to be taking on PG&E. We had the local Sierra Club in Alameda County, a guy named Kent Lewandowski, and Al Weinrub, who became our coordinator, and Rory Cox from Pacific Environment, a guy named Colin Miller, who was just a badass organizer from the Greenlighting Institute. We started assembling a dream team, essentially, of people. This was the time, and from very diverse backgrounds and perspectives, but we all came together and started organizing these monthly meetings. And we had speakers on energy issues. We invited local municipal leaders to speak, to try to, be strategic, right? We wanted to make sure that they felt like they were part of this movement and that they had a stake in it, right? So they presented, and we asked them questions and held them accountable to this vision of really building out our own local clean energy capacity in our cities, right? And so these meetings started attracting dozens of people. We had them every other week near our offices, and that helped us recruit local nonprofits and community groups and businesses to join this alliance. And we didn't charge them a lot. We actually gave free membership, so that that allowed people to join a lot more readily. Although we did end up getting contributions later of significant amounts, and that was incredible. So within the first couple of years, we had about 80 members, and it grew very quickly. And PG&E quickly caught on that, there's an opposition movement brewing, and so they started organizing more intensely, and started making promises and probably threats behind the scenes to city officials who were taking us seriously. So we decided it was time to become more strategic, and we started organizing a conference, which became an annual conference called Clean Power Healthy Communities, and that brought together well over 100 people initially, and it grew over time. And we said, hey, let's not just have this be a talking heads conference where people just sit around and listen to people talk. Like we wanted to actually create working groups of people who are committed to action and doing the hard work that it takes. And so opportunity emerged soon thereafter, but it kind of was in terms of this proposition that our monopoly decided to run, which was this proposition called Proposition 16, and basically they spent $50 million on a proposition. It's a ballot initiative here in California to essentially block any future community choice energy programs from seeing the light of day. They were going to require supermajorities of people to vote and all these other strings they were basically preventing democracy from working. And so they had a lot of legislators in their pocket, and they used an AstroTurf campaign to get as many signatures, and they got this on the ballot. And so we went into high gear. It was make or break time for our alliance with this proposition, and we basically worked with a number of local activists. It was kind of a David versus Goliath campaign, you might say. We actually did have an organizer named David. So it was truly an amazing, effort. We used storytelling, public events and actions, and blog posts, media to enroll citizens. And we said, we're going to stop this monopoly power grab, right? Stop the PG&E power grab was our slogan. And it resonated. We got good media. We got a videographer to do public service announcements, and a lot of mocking videos of PG&E went viral on the internet. It's like 2010, 2000. I mean, it was early in the days. So we saw the power of social media right at the time. And so in the end, PG&E outspent us 500 to 1. But we prevailed. We won the ballot initiative by 50. It was 53% in our favor against this initiative, so it didn't give PG&E the upper hand. And it was really a turning point, we felt, in California politics, because it reversed like this conventional wisdom that if big money's behind it, you're going to lose in state ballot measures, right? Well, we won, and that opened the door to so many other cities thinking that, okay, wow, if PG&E can't stop this statewide, then we should consider this. This is a possibility. And there was a measure in Marin that ended up creating it's a county north of San Francisco that started their own program. And so I'll just note and in closing here that having won that battle really created incredible opportunities and inspired a lot of people to join the movement from there on. And our alliance became very powerful, and we were able to get a lot of climate action plans throughout cities in the Bay Area to include community choice as a solution, and that really planted the seeds, I would say, for the work that I really want to pass the torch on here to Jessica now to speak to, because we lived those early years of the establishment of what became the new East Bay Community Energy Authority here in Alameda County, and has taken it to new heights. So thank you for listening and for letting me be part of this. And Jessica, please share what you've been able to do.
Great. Yeah, can we cue the photos? I could share those quickly. I think we have only a few minutes, so please put your questions into the chat. and we'll get to those as soon as we can. But pretty much what I want to talk about is where I came into all of this was actually doing working the last 5 years towards not only the establishment of this community choice program, but also kind of the implementation of a lot of like Green New Deal projects through this program. And so I'll go over some of those slides. What you see here is a slide of pretty much we were intentionally doing education for specifically leaders of color in the community to be able to weigh in as best on what a local Green New Deal could look like through our community choice program. And initially we had a group called Clean Energy and Jobs Oakland. I helped to establish a wider alliance, which was Alameda County-wide alliance that is known as East Bay Clean Power Alliance. So really doing a lot of education and outreach to the community. Next slide. So one thing to emphasize that was really successful for us was building this alliance and having allies from different sectors, right? Folks from the labor movement were very instrumental. Folks who do health work, like Physicians for Social Responsibility, labor people like IBEW 595, the faith community. We have a California Interfaith Power and Light in the state. And so really connecting with these groups, working together to advocate for a program that builds local clean energy development in order for us to get the jobs and the infrastructure we need here at home versus getting our energy from somewhere far away and sending off the jobs and the energy wealth outside of our communities, right? Next slide, please. And we can keep going to unveil all the photos. Thank you. So the reason why we are advocating for this is because we need climate justice. We need community control. We need to create those local jobs, and all of that builds the resilience that we now more than ever need in our communities. Next slide. Okay. So maybe folks, if you want to see more of like the images that we have, I use the hashtag Clean Power to the People, and you can pull up on your browsers afterwards photos and more information on our campaigns and campaigns from other communities who also use this approach and hashtag. But I wanted to just share, what's really important for us is that we create opportunities and access for our communities, but most importantly, ownership of clean energy, which is something that we are still working on. And it's very important for us to not only advocate for programs and walk away, because we recently had to fight nuclear energy being proposed in our community choice programs. We have to fight these false solutions because they displace the true clean energy future that we're fighting for, right? So right now, as we speak, we have a lot of folks out in the street who are fighting PG&E at the CPUC right now, because we're also fighting this bailout, the bailout of PG&E, the wildfires that have, burned homes and, killed people. So these corporations are destructive, right? And so we really want to replace them with local clean energy for our communities. I think we're short with time, so I really want to pay attention to maybe some questions that people have. So let's see. If folks could add any questions into the chat that we can address, that would be great. One thing I want to really emphasize is that the Green New Deal concept is really being held hostage at a federal level. And it's very important for us to keep in mind that the only way we're going to make things happen is at a local level in our communities. And collectively across the country, these efforts are showing our leadership that we don't need their permission, that we can do these things at home. As impossible as people might think it is, it took a lot of time and diligence, right? And so we've made this happen so far. But once you establish a program like this, you also have to defend it. You can't just walk away from your work. So do we have any questions? I'm trying to see if anybody...
Here's one from Ali. What unlikely alliances did you build to make this possible?
Yeah, so I think the unlikely alliances is really doing a lot of education with low-income leaders, housing leaders, folks that do a lot of not just climate work, but a lot of social justice work on the ground, environmental justice, the faith community. I mean, we really went out there and connected with different folks. And learned along the way that there's so many other sectors of people that we need to include, including the disability justice community. So that's something to keep in mind. And then making those alliances with labor is very important and very unique. And that really is why we had such a successful win back in 2016 to establish this program with a commitment to creating clean energy jobs and infrastructure at home. Any other questions? Or Erin, if you want to add something.
I was wondering if maybe you could speak a little bit, Jessica, to the local economic development plan that was also passed thanks to the great organizing that you and other folks at Local Clean Energy Alliance have been able to do, and the benefits that's provided for the community.
Thank you. Yes, so we were advocating for a Green New Deal, but not calling it a Green New Deal. This is before this was actually a popular thing. We advocated for something we called a local development business plan, which is a plan of how to roll out clean energy, not just solar, wind, and battery storage, but also energy efficiency programs, something called collaborative procurement. It's like bulk purchasing of clean energy versus rooftop to rooftop, which isn't sustainable in terms of jobs and economy. And then other programs like a community innovation grant to be able to fund local on the ground projects, which you might have heard or not. People Powered Solar Cooperative has taken off in the East Bay as a result and got seed money from our East Bay Community Energy Program. So it's an example of a community innovation grant. And as well as various other programs, demand response program to figure out how to change our, our habits, our energy waste, right? And understand how we use energy. Any other questions?
Yeah, we've got one. What kind of advice would you give folks who are coming into their power as voices of change agents, and particularly those who haven't necessarily been listened to before?
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Jessica?
Well, what I think is, there's an old saying by Margaret Mead that never underestimate the power of a small group of citizens to change the world. It's the only thing that ever has. At the local Clean Energy, we have 5 staff, 5 paid staff of volunteers, and our power is in alliances, not in the size of our organization, and we've made huge strides. So that's just an example. And what Erin said, work with the people who are listening to you, sit down together, put your heads together, figure out what your vision is, and you will grow from there.
See, someone is asking about, can you speak to the concept of transition towns that seek to be able to look toward our neighborhoods and our own power, literally and figuratively? Now, I'm somewhat familiar with transition towns. Our alliance was actually connected to the transition network here in the Bay Area in the earlier days, and there's definitely a similarity of vision in terms of like really harnessing our own resources, the people power, the natural resources, etc., in our communities, and mapping them and seeing what the potential is. So we were very much in simpatico with the transition movement, but I think a lot of what we've emphasized though is the importance of making sure that those who are receiving the worst impacts of climate change and the dirty industries are at the forefront of providing the voices and perspectives around the solutions. right? So that it's not just transition in a general way, but it's a just transition away from the dirty energy and toward the benefits of the folks who need those opportunities and to need to be given relief from pollution in the old economy first.
Wow. Sorry to kind of jump in at the last one. I feel like this is such a juicy conversation and one that we can, easily unpack for long periods of time, because what you're doing is so important. But guys, I want to thank you so much. We have so many wonderful things to share that I'm sorry we have to cut it off so soon. But I wanted to just say thank you, Aaron and Jessica. I mean, again, like I was saying backstage, it feels like such an honor to be able to meet and know that people like you are here on this planet who are doing the good work to really help all of us. It's so beautiful what you're doing to help not only empower us, but just model what it looks like to just, step in and take a stand, like really to take responsibility for creating what's important to life really here on Earth. So thank you so much for doing that. And by the way, how can people contact you? I'm going to put that into the chat so that people can find you if they want to ask more questions, if they want to get involved, if they want to connect. I'm just going to pull my camera closer, everybody.
I put in the Local Clean Energy Alliance link in the chat there, hopefully.
Okay, I don't see that there just yet, but local.
Oh, sorry.
You want to do that, or shall Harold?
Yeah, I put it in the chat there, hopefully.
I see it in the chat.
Oh, you do? Okay. Okay, great. So perfect. Everybody's got that. And is there any last minute? Is there anything that you need to say to people just in terms of when they join or connect, or any last moment that any last thing that you want to say in terms of the audience, or you're cool?
I don't know. There's a lot I want to say.
Yeah, I know.
One thing I want to just emphasize is that it does take a lot of patience, and relationship building is slow and change is slow. And I want to speak to that specifically around building allyship with folks who work from PG&E, right? We do work with a lot of progressive labor, and that's important to us, but it's a slow transition.
I thank you for saying that, like it's a process, and I think that's something that we all really need to remember. Living in this human body is a process. Everything is a process. Sometimes we want stuff like that, and look how far we've come. I mean, look back. If we were still the same as we were 2,000 years ago, oh my goodness. So it's a process, and I think every little step, and we help move the next generation forward. So
yeah,
for putting that into the space. Okay, beautiful people. I'm going to introduce another speaker up on stage. I'm going to say goodbye to Jessica and Aaron. Guys, please get in touch with them. See their contact in the chat, and I'll connect with you guys soon. Thank you so much for being here. Great. Well, beautiful people out there in virtual land, it's me again, T-Bird Love, aka Tanya Ridgely, and it's so wonderful to be here as we continue to move through the Impossible Summit. This is our projects and presentations section of our programming, and this is where you're going to get a chance to really go into the lives of some of the most courageous, brave, loving, generous people here on this planet, and it's really a beautiful thing that they're here. We may not know them personally, but their efforts in the world really create so many gifts for us. So I get emotional just thinking about that. So I'm really happy that you're here, and I feel really honored to invite our next guest. When I heard about this woman and had the chance to really meet her, I'll just say it was like, when I got to see her, I literally felt the light penetrate my heart and my body. The work that she does is literally from the heart and full of love. I was like, she is my people. And I feel so honored to be able to share space with her and to know that she's out there helping so many human beings. Her name is Tiffany Persons, and she is the founder of Shine On Sierra Leone. And what she does is she helps run programs that provide education and basic needs to families in small villages in Sierra Leone. And I think that that is so beautiful. I don't know if any of you have ever had a chance to travel anywhere in Africa or anywhere in the world where in small villages, but there's something so beautiful how people in that part of the world, whether they don't have a lot of material wealth, they'll give you everything, their smile and their heart. Yeah. And to be able to have someone like Tiffany in the world to really recognize and help lift those people up, it's a beautiful thing. And you're going to learn more about her project right here. So welcome, beautiful sister. It's so wonderful to be here again. And I'm just going to let you take it away.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you for putting this beautiful gathering together. And hello to everyone in virtual land. I feel you in spirit. I feel your energy, and it's such a beautiful day today. And so I want to share with you today about destiny. And, you know, when I think of destiny, or when I used to think of destiny, I thought of the path leading to the greatest success, to true love. And, you know, at 11 years old, I decided that I was going to be a nurse. And I had this feeling and this image in my mind of standing next to a hospital bed, holding someone's hand and just giving them love and just penetrating them with love and healing. And I remember thinking, this is what I want to do with my life. And so some backstory is that I wasn't the greatest student, right? A C was a celebration for me. And when I got to college in Georgia State University, I was challenged with the responsibility of needing to make an A or a B in both organic chemistry and microbiology in order to be accepted to their highly accredited and competitive nursing program. So true to form, I made C's in both, and I didn't get into the program. And I was heartbroken because this was my destiny that had just been, in my eyes, taken away from me. I decided to drop out and figure out what were my next steps. What my next steps would be. And that was until my father called me up and said, I don't care if you get a degree in cooking, but you are going to get a degree. He had a 6th grade education. He was born in 1921, and he was raised in Huntsville, Alabama. And to him, to have a daughter with a college degree was everything. And so I begrudgingly accepted the task of figuring out what my new destiny would be. And as I was it was just, okay, well, maybe I can do this and do that. And then the course book fell on the ground. And when I picked it up, it said film. And I thought, oh, perfect. This is a sign. I'll just be a movie star. So I took a theater class and a film theory class, and I found out very quickly in the theater class that I was no movie star, nor that was something I wanted to do. But the film theory class really touched me. And then I took a documentary filmmaking class, and then my entire world blew open. Because watching documentaries on topics that mattered, about people whose stories I had never heard before, they didn't have a platform to tell their stories, and they were deeply important stories. I felt that if I could do this was that same feeling of me standing by that bedside and giving love and healing to the world or to this person. And so I decided that I was going to be a documentary filmmaker. So in 2006, I set out to make my first documentary film, which would be following the path of a diamond from the earth all the way to the consumer and documenting different lives that it would touch along the way. And I was so excited. Leading up to the trip, this was 2005. Leading up to the trip, this is when you would actually get paper plane tickets in the mail. And I was so nervous that I was going to lose this plane ticket, because back then, if you lost your plane ticket, you weren't getting on the plane. I would go and visit my plane ticket in the special corner of my room every day just to make sure it was there. I'd never been to Africa. I'd never really been out of the country much. And when I landed and stepped off that plane, my entire body shifted. My hair stood on end. The colors, the sounds, the smells of the rich, thick smell of the red dirt and the faces. I saw my mother. I saw my grandmother. I saw my Uncle Charles. There was my Aunt Easter. I literally was looking at my family, who I had never met before, here, standing in front of me. So every step was like walking in a dream. I lived in a diamond mining community for 2 months and fell in love with this community, the people. There was a school in the middle of the village that had been burned down by the rebels. Yet each day, hundreds of children were gathering, getting dressed in their makeshift uniforms and walking to their makeshift school and being taught by 5 volunteer teachers who were sharing a box of chalk nubs. There was no roof. There were barely walls. There were no desks. But there was a determination that could be felt for miles. I had raised $5,000 outside of my film budget, which I was going to use this money to build a new roof on the school, all new benches for the students, and cement the floors. And so I never knew what I was going to do first, but then I decided to use it for all of those things. And so when I came back to the village with a truck full of supplies that took me maybe the entire day to go to 6 different villages to get enough wood for this roof, and I came back into the village, and the entire village spilled into the streets, singing and dancing and saying to me, they always say they're going to come back, but they never do. And that moment, I decided to commit my life to making sure that every child within this village had access to an education. And that was the moment that Shine On Sierra Leone was born. So when I started this journey 14 years ago, I had no idea. I had encountered a head-on paradox that is our world. Over 56 million children do not attend school. 1.8 billion people have a contaminated water source that's oftentimes many miles away. So how could this be? This is our human family. These are our children. When I started Shine On Sierra Leone, I thought that money combined with a smart plan was the answer. And for 2 years, I raised money. We built classrooms. Things seemed to be going well. Things seemed to be actually changing. I was a single mother, and I had no business starting an organization. I had a 6-year-old daughter. And I hit a wall of depression somewhere around the 2-year mark. And I couldn't quite figure out what it was. But I've always been very spiritual, very connected to my source and wanting to know what the greater meaning of things truly is. And so I started to ask myself this question: what is this feeling I'm feeling inside? People would say to me, what you're doing in Sierra Leone is so great, so wonderful, but I felt like a fake and I didn't know why. Something was out of alignment. So as I said, I was this single mother. I could barely pay my rent each month. I was fearful when I would go into a grocery store knowing that I was about to overdraft my account to feed my daughter this week. I truly was not too dissimilar from my friends in Sierra Leone. But there was something pulling me from deep inside, and I truly couldn't say no. And so I continued on, and I decided to try to figure out and go on this journey to figure out what is going on. And I started to read. I started to meditate. And one of the things I came across was the idea of shifting my reality, shifting my mindset to only focus on what felt good and what I loved and what I wanted, and not putting any attention on what didn't feel good and what I didn't want. And I mean, I did this Jedi mind trick style. I was really, really committed to seeing if this would work. Now, what that meant for me is I had to let go of certain friendships that were rooted in complaining about a certain thing. It meant that I had to completely forgive my daughter's father, who at the time was not the father that I thought that he should be, and truly love him for the person that he was and see the best in him no matter what. And after doing this for maybe 6 months, my life was very different. And after doing this for about a year, my life was unrecognizable. And I realized that that was what was wrong with Sierra Leone and I. I had been going around preaching their sad story and agreeing with them that their government didn't work, and unknowingly contributing to the same problem that I said that I was there to help them fix. Now, another amazing thing happened during this time. What I had forgotten about is that when I first went to Sierra Leone, we had created a list of affirmations with the young children as soon as the school opened. All of 10 of them, all of my needs are met. I have friends all around the world. My teacher loves me. I'm an excellent student. I'm a sponge for knowledge. And they would say these affirmations each and every day in the morning and the afternoon. But they wouldn't just say them, they would dance them, they would sing them. They loved these affirmations. And so when I was going through this epiphany, this revelation, this evolution, it had been about 5 years since our school had been open. And when our school was open, it was ranked number 736 out of 736 schools. And as I was going through this and realizing that they had been saying these affirmations every day, I found out that our school was then ranked number 5 out of 736 schools. And that's when I got a tap on the shoulder and said, here's your proof of concept that what's going on the inner landscape directly impacts what's going on in their outer world. And so I decided to change our name from a charity to a partnership. And I asked them if they indeed wanted to be our partners. And we created programs that are focused on inner development as well as academic achievement, to cultivate and strengthen the understanding within them that they are the co-creators of their own lives. Simply by their human design, they can create the lives that they want in spite of what is going on with their governments. And so I have a very special story in relation to that. After Ebola, one of the many challenges of Ebola, or the symptoms, was food insecurity. And so as you and I may work for our rent for the end of the month or work towards our annual, salary, every single day, the children, the parents in our rural area, every single day is a day that they have to go out and find food for their family. And so during Ebola, it was illegal to touch. It was very similar to what's going on now. It was illegal to touch another person. It was actually illegal, though. It was illegal to touch another person. And you had to stay away from people. So there were no markets that were open, which was their main way of going to the market. No markets, no gathering spaces. And so the children were really, really suffering. School had been out of school for 9 months, and they decided to open schools first to start the reintegration process. Yet markets still weren't necessarily open. And so what happened is our students came back, but they weren't actually eating at home. So they were listless. They were weak. And when the word got back to me here in America, I heard about it, and I just kind of went into a deep contemplation. And we simply did not have the funds to feed everyone in the school every single day. We didn't have those funds. So we had to get creative to figure out, what do we do? So I dropped down, and one thing that came to mind in this meditation was the idea of bone broth. Because I thought, this is a tropical, amazing environment. It's just lush. Sierra Leone is beautiful and lush. And I thought, can it be that green and there not simply be some type of nutrients in those beautiful leaves? I mean, we spend so much on juicing every single day here in other parts of the world, and there it could be right there. So maybe we can create a nutrient-rich broth. Well, it then led me to the idea of bone broth and the idea that there are butchers there that may be throwing away bones each and every day. So I sent a letter out to them asking them if they wanted to try this. And honestly, they were a little in shock. They're like, boiling bones? That sounds a little witchy, and we're gonna say no. But we talked about it more, and we have this deep level of trust that we've developed over the years. And then ultimately they said yes. And so they said, okay, well, they got excited. We've been growing moringa, which is a superfood, for the last 6 years. They said, let's throw moringa in this. And one said, I'm going to go look to the butcher and ask him if he would donate the bones. The butcher said yes. The other said, well, I'll donate firewood. We'll get everybody in the community to donate a piece of wood. Okay. And someone else said, oh, I'll gather some onions. And another gathered tomatoes, and another gathered salt. And the next thing you know, we were boiling this bone broth and this beautiful soup for 2 days. And at the end of that 2 days, the soup fed 250 students, 13 teachers, and 400 community members. It was truly our wine and loaves story. It was remarkable. And it was something that we, over a long period of time, did every 2 days, giving the soup enough time to boil and get all of the nutrients out of the bones. And the miracle is that when I came a month later, everyone came up to me yelling and screaming and wanting to share that they had these health miracles that happened. They had back pains that went away. They had chest pains that went away. Child who had sickle cell anemia was not in pain for the first time in his life. And so they were experiencing something even more than just filling their bellies. And so to this day, this is a part of our program. And every single day, our students have this beautiful, healthy, nutrient-dense soup that we affectionately call bone soup. So this story moves me so because it was a co-creation between us and something greater. And it really is a testament to really everything we need is right around us, and us raising ourselves to the vibration that is the solution instead of focusing in and honing and focusing on the problem. So we've done many great things over the years. Shine on Sierra Leone started a maternal and child healthcare project that serviced 30,000 women and children annually that has now gone on to evolve and be gifted to another organization. We've launched a nationwide computer literacy center that has trained over 15,000 students and community members in basic computer skills that has also been gifted and grown on to be 29 centers now. We've funded over 8,000 microloans that have never had a repayment rate under 95%, so they continue to grow exponentially. And recently, we've opened our wings to care for the well-being of 63 children who lost their parents to Ebola. And we're working with the Ministry of Social Welfare to place these children with families, and we take care of all of their educational needs. So it would seem like this is my destiny. What I haven't talked about at length are the immense growing pains that I've had the fortune of overcoming and growing through along this journey. And so the last thing I want to share is that I stand before you, or sit before you, knowing that a deep pull, that deep pull that kept me moving forward, is that after 10 years of doing this work, I decided to have my DNA test done. And I found out that my entire maternal lineage is from a little lady in Sierra Leone. And so I am the very tribes that I work with. And so I was actually called home on this path of deep challenge. And so my liberation is bound up with the liberation of others. And as I grow, they grow. So is destiny that perfect, true love, perfect success in the sky? Or is destiny pulling you onto the path that you exactly need to grow? And that's what I believe.
Ooh. Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. There's so many valuable pieces that you shared in your story. By the way, everybody in the chat, I put up her organization's URL so that you can go and see some of her work. It's just incredible. We're going to start to open up to Q&A right now. So feel free to write your questions in the chat, and I'll be on the lookout for my team. But I mean, gosh, I feel like There's so many things that you shared. One is like, despite my circumstance back in the day, yes, I can hang on. I was a single mom. I was angry at the baby's dad, all these things. And then I made a choice to say, you know what? I'm going to do what feels good. I'm going to follow what I love. I'm done with what don't feel good and what doesn't love. And with that kind of mindset, you're just talking about these mindsets, how it not only changed your life, but then how you went home and helped these beautiful people step out of, I'm a victim, but I'm in partnership, to empower, to now become, I don't know, I feel like it just gives us dignity by the way we switch our channels, you know, like about how we see or think about ourselves, right? Like how we shift our channels. And I guess, I mean, because you've given so many nuggets, it's not even like I have a specific question, everybody else does, but for me, I just had to acknowledge, one, following what feels good and what you love, how you think about yourself and what you choose to think about yourself has such a tremendous impact on how you show up in the world. And that things that may seem impossible, how your dream of becoming a documentary filmmaker took you to Sierra Leone, which is also so wonderful because of the story I told you about The Language You Cry In. By the way, everybody, that's an amazing film about the ancestry and how you ended up back in that beautiful country. It's just so powerful. So a question that kind of comes through is, you know, what's the next chapter of this story? I mean, you have Shine On Sierra Leone. You know, I know that you've also created the first sustainable primary school, you know, to kind of unpack a little bit of that journey. Now that you've done this, I mean, you just keep evolving. What happens next? You know?
Such a beautiful question. We are in it right now. You know, we're in it right now. COVID is bringing us back to 5 years ago when we were in Ebola. But the powerful part about this time is that they're ready in Sierra Leone. They're ready in Sierra Leone. And I believe that our next step, okay, so what I believe is, I believe in scaling inward and going deeper. And so I say we just continue to dive deeper and see what doors we open as we do that. And, you know, I would love to see us, I want to connect children around the world. I believe that young people learning about each other beyond the simple pen pal way, but learning about the entire landscape of their being, right? If they connect on that level, children in Detroit, children in Sierra Leone, children in Poland, like what will our world look like? What could our world look like in 20 years? Because when you really look at our leaders, there's a deep lack of understanding of other people from other places. And that it's not elite, that it's actually not required that you should have visited a certain amount of countries before you can even become president. I don't even understand that, but that's okay. But what if we can take the time and connect our young people and allow them that space to grow together and to grow with each other, that's something I'd really like to see come to fruition.
I see your vision, and you know what? I believe in your vision, and I believe you, and I'm here to support however I can.
Thank you.
I see it, I love it, and I agree. I want to know how I can even support more, you know, how can I help? I love being with children. I love traveling the world just like you. Same, I had my tickets. Remember when, like, gosh, I had the first passport in 1995. It was my favorite thing. It was my jam, you know, like,
exactly.
Passport. I had my little backpack. I had maybe $100, and I was like, I'm gonna figure it out. I didn't have a lot of money, but I sure enough went around the world, and I have that passion. So with Shine On Sierra Leone, I mean, right now you're doing so many amazing projects. One, giving education, and I loved how you said inner development. And I know that there's a lot of people out here listening who you know, we've had access to a lot of inner development tools, and we also have a lot of access to, you know, we're on the front lines. Those of us here are change agents and activists. And so I'm wondering if there's anything how we can support you, like what is up, how can we get involved, you know, like if we wanted to come over and help, or, you know, what's next for you guys? How can we support is really what I'm asking.
That is a beautiful question. Connecting and allowing our young people to see their human family is deeply important to me. So come, bring your gifts, bring your curiosity, bring your open heart, but absolutely come. I think that is the first step. Of course, we always need financial support. So yes, support in that way. We have 2 links that I'm going to share with you all. Great. So that you can see our COVID response. And you can also know that it costs $420 per year for us to provide an education, the nourishment component that we talked about with Bone Soup, as well as health care for every single one of our children. $420. So that's like 30 something dollars a month, right? So you can do that. And that is something that we need greatly, right? So we need that for each one of our students, close to nearly 500 students under our umbrella. So you have that, but come, because what happens, there's this magic that happens when you come and ideas open up. But see what we're doing, checking out, and check us out, check it out, and then share your gifts with our students.
This is great. This is great. Liberty out there, I don't know if you're on the chat or if you want to email me. I want to make sure that people have the exact link, because I want to get on top of that. And just so you know, we have big shout out for Alejandra. Thank you, sweetheart. Yep, I feel the same way. Like, I'm willing to offer time and skills and everything. That makes up Hillary. Yes, girl. She lives right here near Detroit, and she would she's saying cousins in Kenya too, and they're aligned with the vision. She's all about gathering up. I think there's so many of us. Beck is like, yo, you know, let's connect our children across the nations, our stories, backgrounds. Yes. I think there's so many opportunities for us to kind of step in, and this is really what part of the Impossible Summit was about, like bringing us together and saying, what do you need and how can I step in, and vice versa. So it looks like we're putting, great, there's the campaign there for the kindness campaign. Please go there and support.
Excellent.
Yeah, and again, I'm gonna put in Shine on Sierra Leone, the URL there, because I think you're just gonna get blown away by going there and seeing more of the story. Here, I'm doing this in real time, everybody, because I promised you I was only going to be myself. So in real time, I'm putting this up. Here we go. Oh.
How will I be? Thank you all, the wonderful comments that I'm seeing. This is incredible. Toshi. Beautiful people. Okay, really so will I be able to access this, and then I can reach out to, I would love to reach out.
You know, is there, I would love for you to reach out, but maybe people can, in terms of,
I'll give them my email.
That's perfect. So
I'm doing it right now.
Here, you know, oh, okay, so you'll do that, because I can easily copy and paste whatever feels good, honey. Hi, Stacy, I love you. Yeah, it really is inspiring. And as you put that in, you know, I just want to thank you again. I admire you. I'm in awe of you. I respect and love you. In the short period of time that I've had the opportunity to know you, I think about you all the time in terms of just like, I really want you to have everything that you need so that you can continue to do great work, not even good work, but the great work, and how you're helping people see the greatness in themselves by not allowing them to forget about themselves or to think of themselves as less than, but to really develop that inner strength, that inner core that really allows them to say, I'm somebody and I'm matter. Matter and I'm somebody, and now I'm chosen. And because I feel like I matter and I'm somebody, I can be a great person in the world. And that's a really beautiful thing. So sister, thank you so much for that. Yeah, I'm giving you a big hug. You're an amazing woman. And everybody, please contact, you know, Tiffany, get involved, and Tiffany, now we're going to move on to our next speaker. I look forward to staying in connection with you, and thank you for being a part of this and being such an amazing human being in so many ways.
Light recognizes light, Tanya. Thank you. Have a beautiful rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye, sweetheart. One of the bummers about running an online event is that you don't have all day, that you don't have all day to spend with these great people. So I'm just going to hold that in my heart. This next presenter is also a light in my life. I mean, it's so funny. You know how you have those people, I don't know if you have them, but I certainly do. I don't have to know them for years and years and years, but when we connect from heart space, I feel like we've known each other forever and I can love them. And just as I love Tiffany, I love this woman, Kate, that I'm about to introduce. She's an amazing woman. The conversation that I had, I said, I want to know her for the rest of my life. She's the founder of the Center for Conscious Creativity, which already in that is like my jams. She's passionate about social impact and entertainment. Thank God. Thank God. She's all about future trends in tech and story and transmedia storytelling, writing and development. She's had 30 plus arts and entertainment, including, working in Universal Studios and Paramount Studios, working in television, film development, and production. And she's going to share her journey in terms of creating meaningful media, which is something that I think we all are really hungry for and really need today. So, Kate, I'm going to let you take it away and share about your journey. And I'm just so happy to see you. It's wonderful to be with you here today.
Tonya, thank you so much for the very kind introduction and for inviting me here. I have absolute chills all over my body from hearing Tiffany's story and just the amazing, amazing journey that she went on. And this is such a wonderful act of service to bring these types of conversations to our new media, which I think this is. It's very exciting. I just wanted to, wow, I'm still sitting in Tiffany's story. I got teary-eyed over her share. So I actually put a little bit of a presentation together. Since I'm a media person, I figured I would share my screen. Hopefully I can get it up okay here. And sorry for the little, there we go. Okay, I thought it would be easiest to see, kind of quickly go over just a little bit of my backstory, because like Tiffany, I was a musician and I was trained as a classical opera singer and a flutist. And I was heading down that road to become an opera singer and had a scholarship to go to college. And then when I was in college, I had kind of an identity crisis, and I didn't really, I loved singing, I loved it, but I didn't feel like that track was going to be my destiny. I didn't feel like performing and in this art form was really what was ringing true in my heart. So I changed my major a couple different times and went from early childhood creativity education to philosophy and comparative religion. And then I finally ended up with a degree in communications. And all the while, like many of us watching, I'm sure, I've always been deeply steeped in a spiritual perspective on life and work closely with communicating with inner source and inner wisdom or soul. And so this interesting kind of dual path was kind of put in front of me. And I left Michigan. I grew up in a small town in Michigan and went to Western Michigan University, and I moved to Los Angeles without knowing really anything about the entertainment industry. But I started working as a page at ABC, which was like a glorified production assistant. Over, if you look at like 9 o'clock on my screen, that was like the beginning of my career track into the industry. And so I suddenly was thrust into the commercial media empire and was looking around at the opportunities and the different types of content that was created in the space and trying to find my way. And I worked in production for 5 years in all different categories like script supervising and AD to really understand the production side of the machine. Ended up working in very, like, maybe 20 music videos when MTV was launching. And then I landed on a TV show called Give Me a Break, which was a half-hour sitcom, working as a secretary to the executive producers. But I said, I'm not a secretary, I'm an assistant. I have a college degree. So I went into that track. And then I started looking around the landscape and said, I think I really want to be a producer. So I ended up going to Universal and becoming an executive assistant to several different producers, because once at Universal, you get moved from show to show or deal to deal. So there I was very fortunate to work on shows like Miami Vice and Equalizer and, Law and Order and all these, big procedural cop shows. And so the exoteric aspect of my career track was, paying the bills and building my career and figuring out what I wanted to do. But internally, I was always like deeply dedicated to my soul path and service, and serving what in a tradition that I studied for 7 years called Nature of the Soul was really to serve the one life. How can we serve the one life into the oneness that we all are as humans and people on this planet, and uplift, for a world that flourishes for all. So that was my evenings and weekends. I would study at a place in Los Angeles called the Philosophical Research Society, and there were just wonderful teachers that came in and taught classes on Kabbalah and metaphysics and meditation. And so I started meditating through a practice in my late 20s, and then continued my career track during the day. So I ended up producing my first TV movie for NBC, and then I became a development executive for a company that had a deal at Paramount. And in that role, I got to develop and sell TV movies. So I sold like 2 movies to Showtime and 1 to UPN. And before our deal ran out, our deal ran out before we actually got to greenlight them and get them made. So that happens so much in the industry, like so many millions of dollars are put into development of projects that never see the light of day. But at the end of kind of a 20-year run in the studios at NBC and Universal, I went back to school, got a degree in consciousness studies, and met a man named Ed Lance, and we launched a television channel called the Harmony Channel, and it was visual music based on your mood. So those of you who are familiar with the chakras, we kind of had that in the background as our landing points, and created 7 different mood zones, and then started aggregating and licensing visual music into this channel. And it was like absolute liberation for me. I was so excited to be working with musicians and artists who really, and many of them were creating this content out of their home studios, and were very passionate and soul-minded individuals as well. So around that time, I got together with a group of people, and we launched a volunteer organization called the Center for Conscious Creativity. And this was a group of us that were all oriented toward the extraordinary power of arts, media, and storytelling to create impact and transformation. And so we started hosting events at this little venue in Hollywood. And once a month, we'd have Second Saturday salons and start showcasing work and artists that were doing this kind of content, as well as bringing speakers in to talk about topics that were relevant to our mission. And so in 2009, the Center for Conscious Creativity, you see the website link at the top, became an official 501c3 sanctioned by the IRS. And to this day, we have all been volunteers, and we have done multiple different hundreds of events and hosted workshops and classes. And I can talk more about that a little bit later on, but I just wanted to give you this slide. And then in 2000, and the same gentleman that I launched the Harmony Channel with started a company called Vortex Immersion Media. And 10 years ago, in 2010, we built this dome theater that you see in the upper left-hand corner, and put it on a studio lot called the Los Angeles Center Studios, downtown LA. And in that little dome, over the last 10 years, we have created an artist in residence program. We've hosted several different events that the C3 has sponsored with the help of Vortex supporting us. And this truly, speaking of Tiffany's vision of a global kids platform, I 100% believe in this platform, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it, that this is an inexpensive building structure that can be popped up anywhere in the world. And then you can transport people anywhere in the world in these spaces, because this is like VR without the headsets. So, you know, Vortex has done, and through our work in the Dome as an innovation space, we've done many different types of experiences from both a commercial commercial like brand installations, as well as in our own Dome. We've had like an innovation lab, and we've supported artists that want to work in the format. So you can, if you visit our website, you can see more of the examples of the type of work. It's vorteximmersion.com. But, you know, and this question is, how do we communicate that incredible experience you get when you have these like awareness moments, or these transcendent moments, or Kundalini experiences, or these awe-inspiring moments of life, you know? And we really feel like immersive media has so much to offer as a format. And we have come, you know, we really look at transformative media, and media that helps create, you know, new awarenesses for people. It's like discovering new facts, cultures, and connections, or epiphanies, realizations, and revelations, spiritual or numinous experiences, awakening to more empathy, compassion, love, which there's been scientific studies that VR headsets and immersive experiences actually do create greater degrees of empathy. And all, you know, these types of experiences are often also triggered by meeting new people and expanding your social circles, creating community. And of course, trauma, loss, fear can also be transformative, because it puts us into, it's a catalyst for forcing us into feeling good and thinking good and having positive more perspectives on life. So just back to some of the projects that we've done in our Dome Theater, we've done a project that was inspired by Amrita Sen about Indian culture, experimental works, Petrichor, which was by an experimental theater troupe, Sakamba, addressing the topic of water. We've had like super cool tech come in that creates feelings of awe. And then this is Pasión is a musical in the works about Latin American culture and the history of the movement into America. And Blue Apple was a immersive ballet that we produced through C3, which dealt with mental health and mental illness. And then we've also created immersive experiences. This was based on a Sufi tradition. We did this in the Dome as well. It was fantastic. And so this is just, sorry, let me pause this for a minute. The current project that we're working on is a full Dome show that was designed with happiness, the science of happiness, thematically embedded in it. And I think that, I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I'll just play a little bit of it for you. And this has been, we've sold over 300,000 tickets and showcased in 32 venues in North America. And people come out of this show crying, having transformative experiences. Autistic children have appreciated this. We've gotten letters from parents, and it's really a culmination of you know, these two worlds that I've been tracking, is like commercial media and soul-driven projects. And this is like a case study of success for that commitment.
I want this experience to inspire you into taking a journey with me inside your mind, to engage your senses with this miraculous alchemy of sound and light.
So you can watch the rest of that video on mesmerica.com if you'd like to see it. And then lastly, our company also has plans and projects in the works for digital spas, or what we call digital pharmaceuticals, which are through art and music and light and sound, we can create feelings of transcendence and peace and stress reduction. So, sorry, I'm having here we go. Okay. And then this is another project that we're working on, which is next gen, arts and culture centers to showcase the immersive media format. So domes are coming. There's a giant dome being built in Las Vegas right now, 18,000 seats. There's a dome activation installation in Los Angeles called the Wisdom currently, and we have several in the works. And then lastly, this is a book that I just completed this year that was published by IGI Global Publishing, which is 21 different thought leaders in the immersive space contributing chapters, and that is available 50% off right now, which I highly recommend if you're interested in this space. It covers all aspects of how immersive media can impact culture and society, from VR, AR, XR, full dome, holographic, and interactive, meta, etc. So thank you for that. And I'll see if I can get back now to my screen. There we go.
Oh no, I lost Kate. I lost Kate, but hopefully Kate will come back, because I have a million questions for Kate, and I'm sure some of you also have a million questions for Kate. There's Kate. Hey.
Thank you. I hope the tech worked okay.
It was great, and okay. We're talking about the impossible and letting go and all of these things. Like, I'm just in the flow of things. We're virtual. We're figuring this all out, and we're going with the flow. So it's not about perfection; it's about connection. And I feel like that's very apparent here. Kate, I love learning more about you too, and also that you went through the whole flute opera thing. Because as you know, now I also, everybody, I'm also a flautist, and I was classically trained. And it's funny that my life, I feel like I'm such a shapeshifter in so many different pieces that I wear, from convening this. I live in China most of the time, but I'm quarantined here, and all of these different things. And so it's funny how our life unfolds. And in some ways, do you feel this way? Because you're a spiritual person, that everything that we've gone through in some ways has prepared us for right now, even with like what you're doing, because being here and listening to how you're intentionally creating meaningful media, which is so fantastic. There's often times where, I live in China a lot of the times, and there's a lot of VR, AI stuff going over there, like really rapidly. And it's not always, not all of it, but it's not always intended to be meaningful. It's about who can be first. Not saying everyone, because I just want to be clear with that. There's so many beautiful people, but when I hear about meaningful, intentional technology being created to allow people to really have these experiences that open them up to, I think, going back to what we were talking about earlier, is into the heart space on our panel earlier. And I think that's one of the things that we need a lot in life, is to be more in our heart space. And I love how the work that you're doing is in many ways guiding us into that heart space, even though it's technology. And I'd love for you to speak a little bit more. By the way, everybody else, please put your questions in the chat. To talk about I think what's important for all of us to hear is how technology and humanity can work together, where we don't have to lose our humanity or our heart by integrating with technology. Because I think sometimes when we get so addicted to our technology, we disconnect. And yet at the same time, because we're evolving, because we are in the 21st century, it's inevitable that we have technology. And technology has kind of always been there, but in different forms. But I'd love for you to speak about, because you're at that beautiful intersection of how technology and humanity can actually come together, and why that's important more than ever.
Tanya, that's such an important topic and an incredible question. And I think, just like the individual human, we have to balance, we balance the type of food we eat, how much water we drink, the exercise we get. And I believe that media and technology is also like food, and we need to have media tech literacy so that we that we can really, there's pros and cons. It's a neutral platform because, when you look at us right now, we are able to broadcast this and have conversations to an international audience, which is extraordinary. Like, I think this is new media, interactive new media. And, and just like anything, it can be abused, or it can be used for more negative purposes, or, overused, addiction can happen. But I think that, media sometimes gets a bad rap, or media tech gets a bad rap. And when in actuality, it's the extraordinary, it's the noosphere, and it's like the global nervous system that's getting created, with the internet. And I think it's up to us as individuals to take responsibility for what we're putting out there in the world. And the more that we can, come together and support each other with proof of concepts of success in this space, because in the commercial world, people are looking for projects that make money so they can keep their businesses open, and if we can show them that healthy media and content oriented toward well-being and feeling good can also be profitable, it's kind of like bottom line that way. And, that's what I've always kind of tried to, in walking the razor's edge of working in commercial entertainment, is looking at how can we create social impact entertainment and walk that line at the same time we're profitable and successful. And I've been a member of the Producers Guild for several years, and I was on the national board in the New Media Council. And together we spearheaded a task force called the Social Impact Entertainment Task Force. So there's a lot of nonprofits out there, like Hollywood Health and Society, the Norman Lear Center out of USC. There's organizations that exist that, are committed to this effort. Like, how can we use media for transformation and well-being? And so we're bringing those resources to the 8,000 members of the Producers Guild to say, look, the UN has a group that is dedicated to this. There's, like what, the documentaries that Tiffany was referencing, like a documentary about her story, like those kinds of stories getting out there and inspiring people. There's so much power in that because the outreach is global and international. So I hope that answered your question from my perspective.
Yeah, that shows how important it is, also the direction that we're going. Because whether, we have ideas about technology or not, that's the direction we're going. And even with using platforms like Hopin, I've had to figure out how to use this, because, like we all have who are participating on here. And one of the things that I recognize is that, learning technology instead of, and I'm speaking to anybody out there who may have a little resistance around it, learning technology is like learning how to read and write. And if you don't know how to read and write, you get taken advantage of or left behind. And so for many of us kind of listening here, it's like, I think it's worth kind of exploring, the beauty of technology. And, I keep hearing Julia in my ear right now, like, we've got to kind of meet each other and understand before we have ideas about something else. And I always love to go on the inside out to really have an experience. And, as one of the things I'd also love for you to kind of unpack is like what you're doing and with technology and how technology allows us to do so many things, like connect with each other when we can't hug each other right now, or, touch an audience all the way across the ocean in a completely different time zone. I'd love to talk into the core of why it's important to use our imagination and how technology is so key into helping us ignite part of our imagination again, because I don't know if this is going to make sense because my brain is trying to formulate it, but sometimes people get, burn out on so much, technology, right? Or how, it can also do things for us. But the kind of like transformative media, the immersive media you're talking about, it begins to stimulate our imagination again. And I think as humanity, as people who are really wanting to create the kind of world we want to live in, we have to be able to imagine that world so that we can take the actions to get there. Because if we can't see it, how are we ever going to get there? And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the importance of imagination and technology in helping us to get to the kind of place where we want to go as change agents.
That is definitely part of the ethos of our organization and what we all care about. I've been a member of the World Future Society since my 20s. You know, back in 1985, I joined. And I have followed futurists and been part of the futurist groups because I highly recommend, you know, you all checking out wfs.org. The futurists are storytellers. You know, they come up with scenarios for futures that could happen, you know, along a spectrum, depending upon if we do this, then this will happen. If we do this, and, you know, they have to be storytellers. And I believe that, and Cynthia in the chat, she mentions the universal story that I love. I mean, the world is made up of stories, you know, and storytelling is really what we've always done as humans since the beginning of sitting around the fire to now, you know, putting them out through the internet and the web. But my personal commitment is, I have a show concept that I developed when I was at Universal called Visions from the Edge, which was to have a show that featured visual representations of solutions for our global challenges. You know, so what could our cities look like in 2050? You know, if we start applying, you know, eco solutions to them and visualizing them and having them, you know, pictured on the screen versus stories that, you know, so many of the feature films that we watch about the future, about aliens blowing us up or us blowing up the aliens or apocalyptic disasters, you know, which creates so much negativity and disdain, and there's no, where's the hope coming from? So if we can create positive stories about our future, or positive visions, positive visualizations, you know, where we're seeing solutions put into action, I believe that that's super powerful. And I think all of us need to become futurist thinkers, you know, and really start to, you know, like, what would you see happening in downtown Los Angeles and all those vacant lots where gardens could be grown, you know, until the buildings are put up? Or, you know, Detroit's done that really well. I just saw an article about all the urban gardening that's happening in Detroit. So yes, Michael, you're right. The future is actually a story, and it's a story that we can co-create as humanity and get out there. You know, ask young people what they think the future could look like, you know, and I just get super excited about this topic. And if you Google images and you put future cities up, thousands of amazing visuals come up, and just looking at those and living into some of those worlds and those stories, it can help you, you know, it can activate your imagination. It can activate you thinking about, wow, what will I do 10 years from now in my own life? And how can I contribute? So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, that super value. It's like gold. So thank you so much, Kate, for all that you're doing and for literally holding the torch for meaningful media that we so need, and being such a great leader in that, to help us stimulate our imagination as well as allow us to connect with technology where we don't have to lose our humanity. I just love your heart. I love your incredible diverse experience. Like, you're just creativity itself. And I really appreciate you and value everything that you said. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. If people wanted to get involved, or what's the name of your book again, and where can they find it?
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, let me just put up, well, you can go to Conscious Creativity. We have a newsletter. It's been dormant for a while, but we're getting ready to activate it.
Awesome.
And I'm happy to read emails. It may take me a little bit to get back, but, and I'm at Kate at Conscious Creativity.
You know, I'm a great helper if you need.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Feel free to reach out to me and just put in the subject header "impossible," you know, so I know how we connected. And I'm happy to share ideas anytime. And I love inspiring artists to, you know, create from their hearts and their souls and find ways to get their, you know, their messages and their projects and their talents out into the world in sustainable ways. So thank you, Tonya, and to all your team for hosting this and putting it on. It's so important that we connect and encourage each other right now with all these exciting visions of a kinder, gentler future and a flourishing world. So blessings.
Yeah. Blessings to you too. And thank you so much again. I look forward to being in your divine presence again. So thank you so much, Kate. I wish you a beautiful day. And
Thank you.
everybody, we are just about to round up this.